Hey everybody, what's going on? Here we are at Zone Sports Academy. Duke Baxter, Steve Nicorak, super excited to go over the last weekend, Memorial Day. We had tournaments, the post-game report. What we'd love for you to do is type in where you're watching from, the type of coach you are. Are you a first-time coach? Are you an advanced coach, a travel coach? And what age team are you coaching? 8U, 10U, 12U, high school, college? Leave it all in the comments throughout the entire time. Put some thumbs up, put some hearts on there if you like what we're saying. But make sure you add questions, ask questions, certain concerns that you might have, certain things that happened throughout the weekend that you want to just talk about, because we're going to use this session to also have the other coaches jump right in. So, Coach Steve, how was your weekend?
It was good. It was good. I bounced around a little bit. I actually got to see Coach Duke's team play against our Zoned 11U team. I went to watch my brother Mike's 10U team play yesterday. And a big topic for today is going to be controlling the running game. Because it's one thing that at those ages, especially 11U, where kids are leading and stealing for the first time, it's so challenging to control the running game. I mean, a walk turns into a triple like that on 2 pitches. Kids just start running. Pitchers don't really understand the concept of changing their times and giving different looks. That's something we're going to cover today. Catchers struggle to throw runners out, and I think a lot of it is the pitchers don't really give them a chance to throw runners out. But it's just one of those challenging ages, and one of the things that really needs to be covered in practice, in midweek practice, in preseason. So we're going to really dive deep into that today.
You know, I think it's really interesting that Coach Steve said the pitchers don't give the catchers really a good chance. And what he means by that is sometimes those pitchers have those big leg kicks. The guy takes a steal break, and next thing you know, it's taken 1.5 seconds just to bring the ball to the catcher. So by the time he catches it, the guy's already 3/4 of the way there. It's impossible to throw the runner out. So talking about slide stepping and how to mix up your moves. Sometimes you kick your leg high, sometimes you just slide it straight through. The hard part, though, is when you're dealing with 10s, 11s, 12s, once they do the slide step, sometimes it really messes up their pitch timing, and then they start throwing balls a little more inaccurately. So that's something that we were working on as the games were going on this weekend. We had one of our pitchers slide stepping, but we did see a decrease in accuracy. But we were able to throw 2 guys out, though, which was huge. So that's in my notes now to work on with all the pitchers. How do we slide step effectively and still be on time and give them a chance? So I think those are some interesting things that we're going to talk about as well. And also, it's like the risk to reward, right? If you haven't worked on something enough, you want to put a play on, but you're afraid, well, if my pitcher throws it into the outfield, now the guy goes from second to third, or I want to put a pickoff on at third base, and all of a sudden he doesn't make a good throw, the run scores, and we're like, how are we? What's the situation? What's the score? A lot of times we'll dictate what we call and why we call it.
Yeah.
So
we got a good one here from Coach Anderson. Both my 8U and 11U kids are having a hard time catching up with faster pitches. The directive to get your hands going faster is clearly not going anywhere with either group. Coach Anderson, that's a good question. We see that all the way up until high school. I think step one is making sure that the kids don't get up there intimidated. I think when you see a faster pitching, kids get in there and they're beat before they even get in the batter's box, right? Everybody's in the dugout talking about how fast the pitcher throws. He's got really good stuff today. Get going faster. All those things create like a tendency of rushing up there. And what we always tell our guys, anytime you're facing a faster pitcher, is to, one, you have to believe in yourself, right? You have to get up there and give yourself 3 good, aggressive chances at it, right? We're not up there playing defense. And 2 is we have to start on time. So one thing I always tell my hitters is to start your swing earlier, right? Start your load earlier. Not necessarily swing faster or get loaded faster or swing harder, because we always want to swing 100%. But when you get up there and you're facing a guy that works really quick, has good velocity, I always tell my guys to start your load earlier. So for instance, if my timing is kind of 1, 2, and I'm swinging on 3, now that I'm facing a fast pitcher doesn't mean my load has to be 1, 2, 3. And I have to rush. It's just I'm going to start a bit earlier. So a good demonstration for that, we'll just use the middle camera, Dom. If I'm facing a slow pitcher, I might start my load when that pitcher gets here, right? So then in the batter's box, I can kind of create that nice, smooth controlled load, and I'm gonna be on time. Against a faster pitcher, I might start my load now. So as that pitcher's breaking his hands and coming forward, I start my load. But my rhythm is never gonna change because the pitcher's throwing faster, right? I'm always gonna start depending on how hard he's throwing, depending on whether or not he's slide stepping or quick pitching to home plate. I'm gonna start my load dependent upon him. So on deck, in the hole, I always tell my hitters, get on deck, get in the hole, even 3 batters away, and really just work on the timing. Don't just swing just to swing. Start your load early, stay smooth, stay relaxed. You see major leaguers hitting 99 miles an hour, and they look like they're in slow motion until their front foot hits the ground, and then it's a full speed swing. But I think getting the kids to believe in themselves before they get in there is huge, and also getting them to start their load earlier is huge. Not necessarily think faster or be rushed, just start earlier and start slower.
I think another thing that we can add to that is a drill would be you can do front toss with your players, get a little bit closer, front toss fairly quickly, but have them get into their pre-stride position. So they're already in that stride position, they're seeing something coming in pretty hot, and they got to make sure that they're exploding and getting to the ball quickly. So you don't want to have them get into their regular position and you're throwing rockets so they're going to get rushed like Coach Steve's saying, but get them into the pre-stride position, the ball's coming, and you're having them work their hands fast and happen to be able to recognize that pitch and be able to be explosive, because that's where you'll see some flaws in the swing possibly. If guys are casting out or dropping the barrel and they can't get to that ball, then you know what you have to work on. But that could be a drill that you can use with your players to quicken up their hands and quicken up their swing and make sure it's staying compact. But I think it's the same exact thing happens with that slow guy, right? We played our first round and we beat the number 1 seed. We came out, we beat the number 4 seed, and by the time we got to the championship, they didn't have much left in the tank, and this guy was throwing slower than all the other pitchers. And our guys were out in front, pounding balls into the ground, and it was like, so we were trying to slow them down. So we were trying to do the opposite. And again, if you haven't worked on it that much, it's so hard just to say, hey, stay back. Hey, drive the ball to right field. If they're not good at driving the ball to right field, or you haven't worked on how to stay back, you're just talking and yelling and saying the same thing, and they just can't physically do it. So that's another thing that's in our notes of how to really drive the ball hard to right field, with our guys. So I think the same thing happens with the fast guys as it does happen to the slower guys as well. So
yeah, just last week, Mike Trout hit a homer off the starting pitcher, throwing 98. And then later in the game, they were up by a bunch, so the opposing team brought in a position player to pitch, and he was throwing 57. And he hit a home run off that guy, too. And they put the camera angle side by side, and you couldn't tell which guy was throwing 98 and which guy was throwing 57. And it was kind of like a trick to see, which swing was off the slower pitcher. And they looked identical. He just started earlier versus starting later. So the excuse of this guy's throwing too slow doesn't really work. I know he's the best hitter in the world, but I always try to tell our guys the same thing. I'm a big believer in picking out targets on the field too. Thinking visually instead of mechanically. Instead of telling a kid, all right, you got to sit back and wait for it, I'll tell him, all right, we got to try to hit the Wawa sign in right field, or try to hit the scoreboard in right field. And, just giving them a target, I think helps them stay back, stay on it a little bit longer, and try to drive the ball the other way. So visually giving them a target as an adjustment, I think helps as well.
We got a really good question from Coach McNeil. Good morning, coaches. I know you guys are talking pitching, but I was hoping I could follow up on your managing your coaches when responsibility. We want to set clear roles and responsibilities for a successful travel summer season. So what's the best way to manage the manager, head coach, assistant coach? Hey, coach, that's an awesome question. We deal with that all the time, so that's why we actually created a template for that, something to actually talk about with your coaches. So what we do on our team is I pretty much manage the game. I manage who's going to go into pitch, what's going on, the pitches, and some of the plays in the infield. We have another assistant coach that sets up and moves around the infielder. So he tells the third baseman, the shortstops, he's telling them to make sure they pinch the middle when there's a double play situation. There's another coach that sits back further that just deals with all the outfielders. He positions them. He tells them where they're going. He kind of talks and communicates with them. We have a guy that just is on the bench that kind of handles the bench, but also gets the next pitcher ready and warmed up to go into the game. So that's 4 guys, 4 coaches with 4 different responsibilities, and that really works well. And you need to be on the same page as far as expectations and what you're trying to do with the team, because if you have a guy setting up your outfielders that doesn't really know what he's doing, you can't just tell somebody to do something if they're not sure what that means. So you have to have clear guidance of what does straight up in the outfield mean. What does it mean to be shallow? What does it mean when their 3-4 hitter goes up? You know, having signs that you want them to go back, you want them to come in, things that are signs that the coaches are giving to the players. But I think that the roles are so important and definitely need to be discussed and talked about.
Yeah, and that's a main topic in our newest course that we're getting ready to release, our mental training. It's kind of the game within the game. The stuff that goes on in between pitches, in the dugouts, on the car ride home. There's so many things outside of just the X's and O's of baseball and softball. So that's going to be our newest course that we're getting ready to drop. We finished shooting all the videos. We're putting everything together for it now. But I think getting with your coaching staff ahead of the season, before the first practice and kind of going over those roles is so big. I saw this weekend one of our teams was playing a team, and there were so many voices coming out of the dugout from the other team, screaming out directions and, yelling, keep your head down, play aggressive, fundamentals. I mean, they were yelling out instructions to these kids, and it was almost like they were playing a video game. The kids were just out there, and they didn't want to let anybody down, and too many voices can be confusing, especially for younger players. So, like Duke said, assigning one coach a specific role throughout the game makes your job easier as a coach, and it makes it a lot easier for the kids, because now they're just looking at one kid. Okay, am I aligned correctly? What's the play right here? You've got a pitcher and a catcher working with one coach on pitch calling, and you don't have mom and dad yelling and 3 other coaches all yelling out 4 different things, and it gets confusing. So like Duke said, dividing and conquering makes your job easier. It makes it easier on the kids, and it helps with the overall flow of the game. You're not worried about managing everything at once. You're focused on one specific task throughout the game. So, Coach, that was a great question.
Coach Patrick says, hey, coaches, getting ready. We have 9U. Question for the live. It's getting near the end of the season in Mississippi, and we're getting ready to start tryouts. Looking to being a travel dad and coach, have experience being cut and having to go to another team. Now that I'm assisting and coaching this year myself, and the other coaches are discussing whether to pick up a few players to make our team better or keep the few players who are struggling and hope they develop for the fall. What's your take on this? That's tough.
Yeah, man, that's a good one. And we go through it every single year with our teams, because you've got kids that have been with us for a long time. They're diehard, they might be great teammates, great for the organization. They do a lot of things well outside of maybe just what the statistics say. So for us, we take all of that into account. What kind of a teammate are they? What are their parents like? I know it sounds funny, but it's the truth. What are their parents like? Do they fit the team culture? Are they selfless? Will they play anywhere on the field? Do they work really hard? Those are all things that come into our minds when we're picking teams. So, you might get a new kid that comes in that's awesome, that might be, he might be able to swing it and might be throwing really hard on the mound and, can be your starting shortstop, but then trying to dive in a little bit deeper. And has he been on 4 different teams in the last 4 years? Is his dad crazy? Is he all about himself in the dugout? Those are all things that come into our head when we're picking teams. So making sure that, you want to get better, right? So when we have tryouts for a reason, and it's, to find a few missing pieces from each team to help make those teams better, because it makes kids want to stay. They want to stay in your organization. At the end of the day, winning games is a lot more fun than losing. We pride ourselves on development and getting the kids better, and that means taking a kid and, maybe his career top is going to be middle school. Well, let's make him the best middle schooler ever. Maybe it's high school, maybe it's college, maybe it's pro ball. Everybody's ceiling's a little bit different, but I think if you're doing it for the right reasons, and you get a kid that comes in that's a really good player, you cut one of your players for that kid, but communication is key. So every time you do cut a player, it's never an email, it's never just a generic response to that family. It's, hey, Coach Duke, is your son around? Can I talk to him? And then you talk to the kid on the phone, you give them the reasons. Hopefully you have 2 different teams at that age level, so you can keep them within the organization. But I think every time you do make a cut or make a decision that's tough, you have to communicate, you have to be honest, give them the reasons why. give them some reasons or areas of improvement to where you can give a kid a roadmap and a game plan and say, listen, you're not going to be on our team for this reason. Maybe you're batting 12th on our team and only playing a couple innings on defense. But if you play on our B team or on our second team, you're going to be the starting shortstop. You're going to be batting in the middle of the order. And the ultimate goal at 9U is not to be on the 9U A team. It's to develop and to play and have fun and really enjoy the game and get better. So I think assigning kids a role on a team for not only just the betterment of the team, but for the kid, and to give him an opportunity to develop and get better, I think is crucial. But as long as you're making cuts and moving kids around for the right reasons and you communicate well, I think you're doing the right thing.
I'm going to tell you a quick story that this happened to us 2 years ago. We had a player on our 13, trying out for our 13U team. He was on our second team the prior year and the year before that. Awesome kid, loved the game, played hard, worked hard. His skills were just a little bit less, but awesome kid. He tries out for 13. We do the same thing. He's right on the cusp of the two teams. We put him on our second team, and the parents were not having it. No, my son's elite. He should be on the elite team. We don't appreciate you putting him on the second team. So they left the organization. They then went on to go try out for 3 different organizations, went on the same exact thing. They went on the second team of these other organizations, and now the kid is no longer even playing baseball. So just because the parents wanted him to be on an elite team, whatever that means. Meanwhile, the kid loved the game. He was an awesome teammate, awesome kid. We loved having him, and the parents wanted him to have this certain title that a year later he's not even playing anymore. So parents, it saddens us when we even hear that, because it's like, man, I can't believe so-and-so's not even playing baseball anymore. Like, he was good, and fun, and there's a spot for everybody. But so it not only, is the kid or the organization, the parents do play a big role into that, and it's Coach Whiting saying up here as well. The hardest part of this is the parents trying to coach the kids and making things worse. Then the kids won't listen to the coach because they don't want to upset their parents, and it's frustrating. That happens to us a lot. But what we do is we make sure that before the season starts, we have our team meeting about what our expectations are. Parents are there and kids are there, because at the end of the day, if we know that a pick off is going to third base, I have the third baseman pinching a tiny bit, and all of a sudden the dad's like, why is he so close to third? Get him back. And then the kid moves, the guy goes to pick off, the third baseman doesn't get there, and the ball goes into the outfield. They don't know what the plays are or what we're thinking or what we're doing, or, let the coaches coach, because you don't know what's happening. So you're right, having a conversation with the kids, but you have to have it with the parents, because the kids are going to do what the parents. You'll see those kids that we call them helicopter parents. The kids take a swing and the kid automatically looks to see what the mom or dad are doing, or he throws a pitch and he's looking right at his dad to get either confirmation that he did a good job, or you see a dad going and you're like, what the heck? That makes it so hard to have fun and play a game when that's happening. So definitely talk to the parents. Have that tough conversation. Bring them together and be like, hey, listen, we're here to coach and develop your son. We want what's best for your son. And what you're doing just really is hurting him. For him to look every single pitch, he's not even focusing on pitching. He's focusing on getting you to go like this the entire game. That's not okay. So that's something I think that needs to be talked about. It needs to be addressed. And in youth sports, it's,
Yeah. Got another good one from a Facebook user. How about a postseason evaluation workouts? Do you have a forms for coaches? We can definitely make that for you. I don't have a specific one yet. I kind of just switch it up from year to year, but I'll always, try to create 3 different categories for the kids. I'll do things that you did really well, things that you struggled with, and what's our game plan for attacking it this off season. And I'll try to make it an open conversation. It's not me just telling the player what he did well, but it's also the player giving feedback on the season, how he or she think they did. But I think giving them something to take home and giving them a game plan, like you said, postseason workouts, is huge. Otherwise, your team's going to be exactly the same as they were the year before. Understanding that kids play multiple sports, so their focus isn't going to be strictly baseball or softball in the off season, but they can still do things at home. in their downtime to get better, even if it's just hitting off the tee a couple times a week. But I always give them some drills. I give them a lot of it comes back to strength and conditioning and getting a little bit faster. That seems to be one of the constants on everybody's evaluation form. But giving kids something to take home with them is huge. It's not just telling them what they did well, what they didn't do well, but it's us as coaches providing them with the tools that they need to get better by opening day of next season.
That's awesome. I like Joey Bass. Can we start a movement to eliminate the word elite from youth baseball? You're right. There's elite in everything, it seems like. They're elite at 11U, but then when they're not elite anymore, it's like they're taking steps down. Meanwhile, they're only 12 years old or 11 years old and 10 years old. It's like, well, who knows what you're going to be. It's just trying to get them to play the game, and I think people just use that as more organizations use it just as a word to differentiate a team from another one. Not that they are elite and that they're, the best of the best, but, or it's select and prospect or coming up with words. Because I think A and B is the same exact thing. You talk about an A team and a B team. It's like, you're not an A or a B team. Once you step on the field, that other team's 11 years old and you're 11 years old. Like, go get them. Go do your thing. And, when one organization's, second team will crush another team's A team, or you see it in college baseball. Like, so there's D3 teams that will beat D1 teams. And so you could be whatever level, but at the end of the day, you still have to play the game, and it's the mindset and, how you discuss that conversation with your team to make them, not even think about that. Well, what Coach Steve did put together last year, we did a podcast on this. We'll make sure we archive it and pull it back out, and that's how to run a great tryout. He's got the A to Z's of how to run a good tryout. What are you looking for? How to organize it? How to make sure that all the kids are getting a good chance to show their skills, as well as kind of seeing their mental side of, is he being a good teammate during the tryout? What's his kid like? What does he look like? Is he wearing his uniform properly? Like, all the things that make up a good player. So we'll pull that one out, because I know as we're getting ready for fall ball for a lot of the states, we got to make sure that we can run great tryouts, so you're getting the right kids, and there's no one perfect tryout, but we've been doing it for over 20 years now, and we have a pretty good formula and format for what we're looking for in our organization that we feel that can really help.
Definitely. We'll jump into one more question here, and then we'll go into a little bit about controlling the running game, our main topic for today. But Coach Potts, how do you lay out a conversation with a parent that thinks they need to coach from the sideline and wants to help during practice? I'm sure we all have that one parent. We definitely do. It's something that we try to discuss in preseason, so we always have a player-parent meeting ahead of the season and the first practice. And, we go over our rules and our expectations, and we make it clear that parents are not allowed in the dugout. They're not allowed to kind of hover the dugout. We don't want them bringing Gatorades and snacks, in between innings. We try to make it very clear early on that this is how we want to run the organization, and then we go from there. Now, there is always that one or two parents that either hang in the dugout, and I think it's our job as coaches just to be respectful, and maybe it's in between games. It's not in front of all the other parents. We're not there to embarrass them, but sometimes they do want to help, and at those ages of 9, 10, 11U, that mom or dad has been coaching them their whole life. So now taking a step back and just being mom and dad can be tough for them. So I think it's talking them in between games, in between, maybe even, midweek before the next tournament, and say, listen, I know we talked about it earlier on the season. I'd really appreciate if you could, just go be mom or go be dad. I'm having a hard time communicating with your son because I feel like every time I tell him something, you're contradicting it or you're giving him something else, and it's just too much information at once. So after that, then it's a little bit harder of a conversation. Then you got to really sit down and be more stern, but go over it in advance, go over your rules and expectations, and then if it continues to happen, try your best to just talk one-on-one with that specific parent, and good luck. Those are not easy conversations.
Yeah, and I think that for us to realize that us as coaches, our job is to do what's best for the team as a whole. Yes, we care about each individual, but we're looking at the team overall success and trying to develop everybody. As a parent, that parent cares about their child. All they see is their child. When their child sits the bench, it's like, their child sitting the bench. They don't know when Johnny and Mikey they don't know when they're all sitting the bench. So one game we had everybody sit the exact same amount of innings, and yet one parent was like, my son's sitting more than everybody else. What? And then we showed everything on Game Changers like, no, that didn't happen. Look, everybody sat, it's like, oh, well, I didn't know that so-and-so sat. Well, yeah, that's because you only care what your son's doing. Like, that's all you can, not that's all you care about, but that's all you can really see. You're there to watch the game. When is he playing? When is he not? Where is he playing? He's in the outfield, he's in the infield. So I think that what Coach Steve said hit the nail on the head, because we have to bring that to their attention prior to, make them aware of that prior to. So when it's happening, it's like, oh, okay, I never really thought about that. Or that 24-hour rule to where they're not talking to you right after the game and they're attacking you with 10 questions and why is my son? You're still going to have that parent that's still going to do that, but you got to hold true to I have no problem talking to you tomorrow. Please, let's talk tomorrow, and I'll gladly give you my time. But right now, it's not the right time because they're heated and you're heated. Maybe you lost the game, maybe this, that, and it's like, or you're getting ready for the next game. So the 24-hour rule is a huge thing that can really deflect the conversation to at least get into a better place for both of you when you really want to talk about it.
Yeah, and we have our lineup card templates available on our website, and I've used it and I keep track of them throughout the entire season. So I just have a folder. After the game, I push it onto the left side, and it's what Duke just said is so true about parents coming to the defense of their child. I had a parent a few summers ago actually come up to me and really question whether or not I was being fair to his son. And he was talking about playing time and how he's only gotten a couple innings in the outfield and he's a glorified designated hitter and he's never playing in the field. So it made me question myself for a second, because I'm usually pretty fair with defensive changes and replacements. So I actually went back and I mapped out every single game. It took me some time, but I sent an email to the parent and I said, listen, your son has played, we've played a total of, let's say it's 100 innings. Your son's played 48 innings at first base. He's played 37 innings in the outfield. He's pitched 24 innings, and he's DH 12. Like, it really wasn't that, he wasn't a glorified DH, but I think, like Duke said, sometimes as a parent watching the game, you only see when your son is hitting, or when your son is, maybe just hitting and DHing, or when your son's the EH for an inning, and they start to wonder, why is he not playing and why are the other guys playing? So I think just keep track, right? Keep track of all your lineup cards. I do it just for, my own clear mind at the end of the year, so I can actually go back and give a real reasoning and an explanation behind, who played what and when and where.
So now let's talk about, what one of the main topics of discussion, and we saw it all weekend long, right? We're 11U, so it's the first time they're leading and stealing. Coach Steve's 10U, 12U, pretty much a bunch of age groups. But we saw this weekend a lot of, man, once there's a runner on first base, it's like he steals second in one pitch and steals third in one pitch. It's so hard for the catcher to actually throw the runners out. So working on pickoffs at second base and how to keep that runner close when he's over there. So we have a couple different things that we're going to show you today that can keep that run a little bit closer so he doesn't just take third. Now, it takes a lot of practice. Some of them are timing plays with the middle infielders and the pitcher. Others are just kind of decoy moves, just for the pitchers, just to flash a couple moves to show the runner on second that, hey, I got something up my sleeve, so maybe that'll keep him a little bit closer. Because if you don't show any moves, that coach is just going straight steal, straight steal, straight steal, straight steal, and you're just gonna, one pass ball or one ground ball, and the guy just went from first all the way around to third, and he scores on one ground ball, and you're like, what the heck? Like, we can't stop this. So we're going to show you a couple things. The first one is just we can show the leg over. Which one do you want to show first, Coach Steve?
Let's go. You be my shortstop here. So we'll say runner on second base. We're trying to control the runner on second. Duke's the shortstop. I'm the pitcher. We'll say, runner on second, nobody out. So that guy's looking to steal. All I'm doing here as a pitcher, we'll talk about the inside move or the leg over move first. So I come set, I maybe peek at him, I come back home, but as I lift my leg, I'm gonna work back towards second base. So you can call it the hang in there move, you can call it the inside move, leg over move, but notice I'll do it sideways for you. We can't lift up and go back down and touch the ground. You can go up, go back down, and then start to turn. And this move isn't to pick the runner off at second base. It's more so to see if he's stealing, and maybe we do catch him in a big secondary lead, or we do catch him breaking. So you see a lot of players, they come set, they do the inside move, they do one of these and then try to throw it from here, but we don't have to throw it. All right, and more times than not, if the guy's not stealing, we're not going to pick him off there. So what I am trying to do is I come set, I give him a look, I leg over, he's stealing, now I'm going to cut him off and get him in a rundown between second and third base. Or I come set here, he takes a big secondary lead, I set my feet, and I give Duke a good strong throw at second base. So that leg over move, inside move, hang in there move is not just to pick him off second, and we don't have to throw it, but it's a really good way, and I would practice it. I set my guys at practice in a straight line, and we all work on it. We don't want to, normally pitch with this tempo, and then all of a sudden for an inside move get real stiff and give it away. The goal is to try to keep that same rhythm and same movement. So this is a pitch to home plate. This would be my hang in there move. It looks the exact same. So trying to, create a station at practice to work on that is huge. The second one would be our daylight play. So Duke's my shortstop, and you notice he just gave me the glove. So daylight is I come set, I get my sign, I come set, I give Duke a look. He's right behind the runner. I look back home. I look back. As soon as he gives me the flash, I spin, and I fire the ball to second base. So Duke's job as the shortstop there is he's kind of right in the runner's pocket. He might be getting a bigger lead. My job is to stay relaxed on the mound, not get stiff, not be staring at him waiting for it to happen. So I'm here, I come set, I give him a look, I see it, boom, and I go. Now watch my feet here. Once I come set, I'm just going to do a spin move. So my feet are literally going to replace themselves, but I'm getting into a good athletic position to throw the ball to second base. My body is going to follow my eyes, so I have to make sure I get my head around. I pick up Duke at second base, and I give him a good strong throw. So again, one more time. And if he doesn't give it to me, then I just go straight home. So I look back home, I look again, I didn't get it, and I make the pitch to home plate. In between pitches, you can have a small little sign between Duke and myself. Maybe in between pitches, he gives me one of these. He just gives me the open glove. Or he grabs the brim of his cap or grabs his ear. Something just to let me know, all right, we're working on something here. So I come set one more time, look at him, I see it, boom, and I fire to second base. That's a good one. I would definitely spend some time at practice because it's more timing than anything. More timing and just making sure that Duke and I are on the same page. So hopefully that helps. You want to talk about the A, B, and C move to first?
Yeah. So we have a couple different signs that we'll give the pitcher. So we have the bad move, we have the good move, and then we kind of have like the delayed move that we're kind of just hoping that we can lull the base runner to sleep. So the first thing you want to do is just the play number one we'll say is the bad move. And the bad move is just the pitcher comes set, he steps off and just kind of goes really slow. Just to get the runner to go back, he'll come set, take his time, go slow, and kind of think that, oh, that's the only move that he has. If it's a lefty, it's the same thing. He kind of would just go like this, stare right at him, lift up, and just kind of come over. Or the lefty might just step off and just kind of come over. That's play number one. Play number two is, this is our good move. Our good move is when I come set and I pop my feet, boom, and I snap throw the ball. So it's my good move. So this one is the one that they saw. And then the other one is, and I'm popping my feet. For the lefty, it would be, instead of just coming up looking at you and you can tell this looks like a pickoff, instead for the lefty, it's going to look more like this. So that's his good move. Or the lefty might look home, lift, look, and then turn back and boom. That's another good move. And then the third one is just kind of, it's a hold. It's a 3-second hold. I'll come set, 1001, 1002, 1003, and I'll pick. And it kind of just gets that guy, you'll kind of see if he's getting antsy and going more towards second or what is he doing, so it'll kind of tell what he's going to do. And then we have our slide step. Our play number 4 is just he comes set and just goes right into his pitch. So we know he's stealing. We tried doing this one, boom. We can tell he's going, he just barely got back. Well, now when I come set, boom, I'm going right to the plate, giving my catcher a good chance to pick that runner off. But those are some really good ways to slow down the runners and do those sort of things. Now, this is what happened in our game yesterday on Sunday, which was crazy. Runner on third. You tell me what you think this is, balk or no balk. All right, runner on third. 2 innings before that, when the team had a guy on third, they suicide squeezed, and the guy forgot to bunt, so he pulled it back. The kid went home. Thank gosh, the ball got by the catcher, and he scored. The next guy from second came to third. They suicide squeezed. So now it's a tie ball game. Last inning, I see the runner on third, and I call a pickoff to third. So here's the pitcher. We have the pickoff. He comes set. Boom. Right when my pitcher lifted his leg up, the runner took off because it's a suicide squeeze. Boom. He takes off. My pitcher faked. All of a sudden put his foot down, gunned it home, got him out. The other coach was screaming, balk, balk. You can't fake the third. But that's true. If the runner did not steal, you can't fake to third. There's no fake. It's like a lefty can't fake a pick to first base unless he steps off. He can't not throw the ball. Righties can't not throw the ball and fake. It's a balk. But when the runner's stealing, you now can fake because you're making a play on the actual runner. Now, if we didn't have a pickoff on and it looked more like this, and all of a sudden, and now he slams in a break, he was going home, and now all of a sudden he stops and then goes, that's a different story. But it was kind of crazy, and it was, thank gosh we got that, the umpires got that right. It was not a balk. We kept playing. We ended up winning in extra innings. It was an awesome game. But just for you guys out there, you coaches out there that are wondering, with that situation, the same thing happens with a runner on second. If he's stealing, you can always put your foot down, really. But that was a situation where when he actually picked straight to third. So those are some good ways to hold runners on. You can hold runners on third base, just like a lefty would lift his leg up. We have a lot of plays where, we'll just lift up and pick to third just to kind of keep that guy close. And again, some of these are very basic, but it tells the other coach and the runners that, hey, something might be on. These guys got something going on. Even if you just step off the rubber a couple times and you just kind of look at the guy at second base, you step off and look at him, it'll kind of keep him closer. So hope that helps with holding some runners on in the bases.
We got a tough one here from Coach Pete. What do you guys recommend psychologically to help a young boy who's having trouble throwing the ball straight? We discussed all the markers, etc., but didn't help this weekend. Fielded everything, just couldn't throw it straight. Even me telling him I love him and he's my third baseman didn't work. That's a good one, and sometimes that does work, is just getting in their head and just letting them know that you trust them and you believe in them. What do you got for that, Duke? I think that's a tough one there. Outside of maybe just trying to create some game-like scenarios in practice where, I'll give you 2 things that come to mind for me. One is aim small, miss small. I tell our pitchers that all the time, but aim small, miss small means instead of them just trying to throw a strike, they're going to pick out a really small target, right? They're going to pick out a lace on the glove, or they're going to pick out the V right here on the inside of my pocket. And if they miss that target by 2 feet, well, they're still in the strike zone. So as a third baseman, sometimes, they're trying to place the ball to first base, or they're just trying not to make a bad throw. So I think, getting set, getting a good shuffle, and really picking out their target at first base. It might be, the logo on their chest, but throwing it hard and being aggressive through it might help. Number 2, I think stopwatch infield outfield is huge. I've talked about this in the past, but creating that sense of urgency in practice to where they're fielding ground balls, that either they have a runner running home to first, or you have them on the stopwatch and they have to get the ball to first base in a certain amount of time, creates that fast-paced environment. Because I think in practice, kids field it, lob it over, it's nice and smooth, and then the second there's a runner, they start to freak out and make a bad throw. So trying to create a little bit of game-like scenario or pressure in practice helps. I'm not sure if it's a mechanical issue or a mechanical flaw, but it sounds like it's more mental than anything. So, try to put some pressure on them at practice. Again, keep up with the, I love you and you're my third baseman. I think that stuff helps too. I think anytime pitchers go through it all the time, fielders go through it where they just don't trust themselves. They don't trust themselves to throw, but I think putting putting the stopwatch on him gets him to think less about what his arm looks like, less about what the mechanics look like, and more about, I have to get this ball to first base in less than 4 seconds.
And also make sure, we had to implement this with our team in between innings, is it seems like all the infielders, they want to hang out at second base. So the shortstop's throwing from second, the second baseman's throwing from second, and the third baseman's throwing from second. We had to tell them, watch a big league infield. What happens in between? The third baseman's all the way in the back. You want to make the throws from the furthest possible place at your position. So that way you are making long throws at third. The shortstop's throwing balls from the hole. Because if you just throw from second and all of a sudden you get a routine ground ball at third and the throw's twice as far, you haven't been practicing the throw from where you're actually going to throw it from. So make sure that you stay on them during in between innings that they're making those good throws, and you're getting the kid pumped up then, so that when he does get the ground ball, he's making good throws. A lot of times also, you'll see kids baby the ball. When they're not confident, you'll see them two-hopping the ball to first base from third base instead of just take it and fire the ball. Just take it and throw it right through his mitt. Because usually when you do everything full speed, you do it better. When you try to place the ball, or you try to make sure you make it good, everything slows down, and next thing you know, you're like, you get lollipops, or you'll see pitchers doing that. After they hit a guy sometimes, they throw 4 balls that bounce in front because they're like so afraid to hit him again, or they just walked a batter, and they're just like in their own head. It's just, hey, see that glove and fire it to the glove. Hey, throw right through the glove. Like, just get their mental approach to just get it and gun it. That's why he's playing third. That's why you like him. That's why you love him. Let's go. Take that ball and just fire it to third, and whatever happens, happens.
Yeah. Coach Anderson, just touching on what we just covered, per holding the runner on idea, 11U, first time with leads. I'm struggling to keep runners close to the base so they don't get enormous leads off second base. Do you prefer to have your shortstop or second base trying to keep the runner on, even if you're not actually running a pick? I think it depends on the situation. So it depends on the batter, and it also depends on who you have on the mound. So, if there's a big right-handed hitter up there and my pitcher doesn't throw very hard, there's a pretty good chance they're going to end up pulling the ball. So in that situation, big power hitting righty, slow pitcher, I'm going to have my shortstop cheat towards the hole more, and I'm going to have my second base work on holding the runner on, and vice versa. Maybe it's a fast pitcher, batter's at the bottom of the order, right-handed hitter, he's been late the hole at bat. Well, then I'll tell him in that situation, shortstop, you're going to hold the runner on. Second base, you're going to cheat more towards first. So I think it's just feeling out the situation. If it's kind of a neutral and, not really a fast pitcher, you don't really have a good read on what the hitter's going to do, you can have the guys alternate, have your shortstop creep in, then have your second baseman creep in. But I think making sure that somebody's there and somebody's always working to keep that runner close is huge.
Coach Anderson, this worked for us this weekend. We've been working on it the last 3 weeks. But we haven't had a chance to actually use it, but it worked this weekend. Watch this one. So here's what we did. We call it fire. We call it the fire play. And what happens is this. The pitcher has the ball. And just like you said, the guy on second's taking a monster lead. So Coach Steve is going to stand right behind the runner. So he's going to stand right behind the runner. And when he says fire, I'm going to step off and throw it right at the runner. And what's going to happen is it's going to freeze the runner, and the shortstop is actually right next to him. So if this is the runner right here, right there's second base, here's the runner. He's got a monster lead. Second base, Coach Steve, the runner, is getting really far off. When I come set and look, Coach Steve is just going to say fire. That means that this guy's way too far. We got to do something. All I'm going to do is step off with my right foot and just fire the ball right to Coach Steve. It's going to look just like this. So I'm going to come set. I'm going to look.
Fire.
And it worked like a charm. The kid went like this. Our shortstop caught the ball, tagged him, and we were like, let's go. Because we've been working on it, but we never had to actually use it. And it worked so well because the runner was like not halfway to third, but almost that close. And we're like, what the, because we've seen that we had a scrimmage before the season, so I'm like, how do we stop that? Because as soon as you lift your leg up, he takes off running, and he's getting to third anyway. So we just come set, the shortstop yells fire, he steps back and just throws it right at him, boom, boom, tag, done. If the runner decides to go to third, it doesn't matter, the shortstop's got the ball already, and now the rundown's only a 15-foot rundown, boom. we'll get him out every time. So that's something that we did. When that runner on second's going too far, you pull the shortstop right behind him. He calls fire. The pitcher steps off and just snap throws right at him. Boom, done. So that's another. I never thought we'd add that plan, but when you're coaching, you try to figure out, whoa, if this happens, then what? Or you see something for the first time and you're like, okay, how can we defend this? So hope that helps.
Good one here from Coach Eric. What if you're a dad and a coach? How do you motivate and keep your young pitcher focused without being the overbearing dad? And then our boy Joey Bass, I believe, commented towards that question. Sometimes you just have to be a dad and ask the other coaches to do the coaching, even if you have to tell them what to tell him. Let them hear another voice. Joey, I think that's awesome, awesome feedback there. And Coach Eric, the only thing I would touch on is, you know, I'm not a big fan of yelling out mechanical fixes in game, right? Maybe you and your son have a talk in between games and, you know, get into his head a little bit. What kind of a kid is he? Does he like to be pushed? Does he like to be coddled a little bit? But understanding the dynamic of your son, as well as all the other players on the team. Some kids, you know, can take some fire and some enthusiasm from a coach and kind of use it to fuel their performance, and other guys get nervous. So I think understanding who they are as a player, not just what they can do or what needs to be fixed on the field, is huge. But then a lot of times what I'll say is, you know, trust yourself, believe in yourself, be aggressive. I think for pitchers that are struggling on the mound at that age, it's focus, it's nerves, it's trying so hard to throw a strike, and it's rushing. You see kids, they get the ball, they step on the mound, and they fire. They don't really pick out a target. They don't take a big, deep breath. They don't slow down. So I think what Joey said was awesome. Sometimes they do need to hear another voice. But, you know, coming from you, just understand who you're talking to and what kind of feedback helps him, what kind of feedback makes him nervous, and kind of go from there. But definitely applaud you for being dad and coach. That's always a tough thing to do.
And you can also use your catcher, especially if you have a good motivating catcher. Like if things are getting a little hairy, instead of calling timeout and going to the mound, like just yell to the catcher, hey, Joey, go settle him down a little bit. Go talk to him. And, you know, because the kids have good rapport with one another. And if he's that kind of catcher that's motivating and, hey, you got this, come on, let's go. And you might need to coach up your catchers a little bit on what to say in those situations. But, hey, let's go, you got this. I'm going to just see my target and let's get this. We can do it. You have to use your catchers, or else every time you get into a gym, you're going to want to go out and talk to the pitcher. You know, and you only get the 2 visits. So it's, you know, make sure you use that. I think the Coach Zadlow, Coach Mike's, says he's been hosting tournaments, 4 fields. Thoughts on an hour 50 hard stop. I mean, there's so many different rules out there. An hour 50, we've seen an hour 40, we've seen an hour and a half, which is so fast. It's like the games are like, but an hour 50, I think that's fine. Both teams know going into it. It is what it is, and you have to coach accordingly. But in order to get the games in and stuff, that's just what you have to do. It stinks that you have to hard stop no matter where the situation is. I'd rather it be like no new inning after an hour 40. You know, hard stops, and someone's like, oh man, we have the bases loaded, and you know their guy goes out 2 times in a row, changes pitchers, because then they can kind of change the game like that. There's some coaches out there that'll just eat the clock just on doing stuff like that, and you're like, he knows that in 3 minutes the game's going to stop no matter what, and next thing you know and you're just like, that's brutal. But
yeah, I'm a fan of the no new inning, because you do have to get the games in. I mean, you're there all day long playing 4 or 5 games a day, so I would prefer no new inning. I understand why you have to do hour 50 hard stop, especially 28 teams. But no new inning for me is definitely better, because then, like Duke said, the other coach can't really milk the clock and try to drag it out as long as he can.
Coach David King. How about, let's say the bases loaded, runner at second's getting way too big. That was the exact situation that we talked about before, where we just called fire. Step back, gunned it to the shortstop, boom, boom, and there was 2 outs, which made it even better because, you know, we got the 3rd out on that. But putting the ball in your shortstop's hands that much closer kind of keeps everything under wraps anyway. If the guy from 3rd wants to take off running after he tags him, he's going to throw him out anyway. You know, we're trying to put on some fancy play. There's too much risk to reward on that. The guy throws it away, now 2-run score. So that's just something that's real quick, short, boom, he steps off, snap throws, shortstop now has the ball. So it's just, you know, that's something that just worked out great. So
good one from Coach Dottie, coaching 8U in Santa Fe, New Mexico. In an effort to eliminate the overthrow errors at first base, I've been coaching players to field the ball and hold the ball to stop the play. We've had several in the park home runs due to overthrows and wild throws. Not ideal, but it has kept some runs off the board. Any thoughts? I'm trying to understand exactly the situation. Overthrow errors at first base. So I'm thinking the infielder threw the ball down the right field line, and then, the kid goes to second, they airmail second. Yeah. We've been in that situation before. So I don't necessarily disagree with you. You do want to control the ball in that situation because, kids come in and they say, oh, I hit a homer this weekend, but really it was an infield single with 3 throwing errors. So I think as long as you're teaching your players to back up correctly, teaching your catcher and your right fielder that on any ground ball in the infield, the catcher and the right fielder have to be working back behind first base. They have to be there for an overthrow. And then on a throw to second base, you've got your left fielder and your center fielder backing up second, teaching them correctly how to back up bases. But when it does start to get a little chaotic and balls are flying and there's not really a play, eat it and run it in, right? Hold the baseball, secure it, sprint the ball back into the infield, as an infielder, and just control it at that point. So I think you're sending the correct message. Just make sure you teach them, the proper way to back up bases and where they should be, because a lot of times that'll eliminate some of those inside the park home runs.
Yeah, her latest comment was it's when the runner has already beat the run. So like you said,
okay.
The runner's already going to be safe, and the kid just fired anyway because they're just trying to. So like you said, explain what the word "eat it" means. When you yell "eat it," that means just hold the ball. Exactly what you're saying, because the play's already finished. Making sure everybody's backing up, but if once that ball's bobbled and and there's no play, eat it, eat it, eat it, and that way they know that means just to hold it.
Yep.
Hold the ball, and it is what it is. But
Coach Duke, you want to finish? I'll grab you a connection ball. Coach Gaston, the 17-year-old.
Oh yeah,
throwing sidearms.
I have a 17-year-old throwing sidearm. How can we adjust this? Okay, well, that's there's a lot of arm injuries when and it depends on what you mean by sidearm, right? Like there's so many. I know what it means, but are they upright and slingshotting balls and throwing sidearm like this? So one of the things that we like to use is we like to use the connection ball. We'll add the link in there. We use this for a ton of stuff. We use it to stay connected when we're talking about hitting. We use it in the back arm to make sure that it's the same thing. We're staying connected that way. But we also can connect our arm to make sure that when we're throwing, we're getting into a good throwing position. So if I were to throw sidearm, the ball pops out, right? We don't want to throw that way. The ball should pop out in front of me when I'm going to throw, and I rotate, the ball should fall out in front. If I throw sidearm and slingshot, now if my body's down here, it's different. Here I'm slingshotting and throwing when my body's tilted, right? So this is my throwing position as I go down. Here's my position. So when I have the connection ball, which Dom's gonna kick back to me, we're playing catch. I'm in this position. I'm getting into a good position. They're gonna turn, rotate, and they're gonna throw the ball, and the ball will then fall out in front of me, and it will go that way. But you definitely don't want your athletes standing tall and throwing like this, because that's gonna puts a lot of tension here and on their decelerator muscles as they're trying to explode up. So the connection ball is awesome for that. So every Monday or Tuesday, I think next week, is it Monday or Tuesday next week?
We're back on Monday.
We're back on Monday again. Next Monday, post-weekend recaps. We love them. Everybody's giving great feedback on them. Make sure you click the link. You can get into our membership for free for 7 days, and you can get over 900 videos. You can get our practice templates. You can get our parent-player codes of conduct, all the templates that we have, our QAB charts, our everything and anything, our pitching courses, our catching courses, our T-ball courses, all that stuff's on there. You can get it for free. Just click that link, boom, go in there, name, email, and it's all yours. We hope you enjoyed that stuff. We hope you enjoyed what we talked about today. Make sure you keep the comments coming, because that's what fuels next week's show. So Duke Baxter, Steve Nicorak, we're at Zone Sports Academy. Always remember to dominate the diamond. See you next time.